So I thought it would be good to do a little recap of my weekend this past weekend going to RC Houston, SCG Con. So basically, made it to day two. First time day twoing one of these RCs since I started going to them. And format, of course, was modern. And hey, big shout outs to Vinny Fino, local SoCal player, winning the whole thing on the Jeskai Blink deck. Very cool. I just want it to be well established and emphasized that I beat him frequently in RCQs. I think that's important. Everyone needs to keep that in mind. So, anyway, I went 9-6 total, which one win short of the min cash, and I think you also would get a requal for the RC, but I already have double invite for this upcoming standard season, or this current standard season rather. So yeah, not so it wouldn't have really mattered for me anyway. And it's like $120. It's not nothing, obviously, but anyway. So this is the deck I played. Good old fashioned Boros Energy. This is the same deck we streamed the other last week. So just quick recap. Went with the 23 lands, and then stock things in the sideboard: 3 Seasoned Pyromancer, 2 Blood Moon, 1 Static Prison, just the one of, 4 Ragavan, huge, absolutely huge, 4 Discharge, of course, the 2 Voice of Victory, 2 Raven Charm, 4 Flage, of course. I mean, look, it's not rocket science. It's Boros, okay? The sideboard, I think, is where things can get a little interesting. I think this was fairly stock at the time. 2 Orm's Chant, 2 Celestial Purge, 1 Stony Silence, 2 Clarion Conqueror, 2 Wrath of the Skies, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Obsidian Charmaw, 2 Surgical Extraction. So, yeah, again, it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's Boros. 12 fetch lands. I don't know. It's it's fine. But just really quick, I do want to take a quick look at the second place. This is the deck. This is the list that got second in the tournament. So obviously we could see some differences. Let's start with the main deck. You could see there are 4 Spyros, 4 Seasoned Pyromancers, and 22 lands. And I was a little confused. I realized this person cut the basic mountain. They cut the basic mountain. I guess it makes sense if you're going for the Blood Moon strategy. I just thought it was interesting because oftentimes if you get stuck on 2 lands, it can be a little rough. But I don't know. I'm sorry, I forgot the person's name. But they felt that this was the optimal build. And I mean, the results speak for themselves. I think mostly, though, and then other than that, the main deck is exactly the same. It's literally just 4th Spyro for basic mountain. And then, of course, I think the fetch lands are a little different. But, I mean, he went with like a 3-3-3-3-2 or, something like that instead of 4-4-4. It's marginal for Pithing Needle. It's not. Don't worry about it. They just all have to be white. Anyway, so, and then the sideboard. So 1 Celestial Purge, High Noon. High Noon was I think this was pretty huge because it's probably really good in Boros' bad matchups, right? The 1 Stony Silence, only 1 Wrath of the Skies, Surgical Extractions, Meltdown, so it probably just eliminates the Affinity deck if you draw it, right? Triple Charmaw, just another Blood Moon in the sideboard too. Double Wear Tear, Vexing Bauble for the Blink decks. So Blink, obviously the big boogeyman of the format, or not boogeyman of the format, rather. It's more like it was like the deck of the tournament. Deck was sweet. Yeah, the Jeskai, all the Blink variants, Esper, Jeskai, Blue White, cool decks. I think Jeskai, people have once again realized that the card Flage Titan of Fury is good. It completely, it caught me off guard. Absolutely. No. I mean, look, you got the nice blue-white shell. You splash some red. You splash some flages. Maybe a couple discharges. Red removal. It's good stuff. Okay, but let's go back. We'll come to that. This was, of course, the version we played. It's fine, solid. And I'm not. I wish, of course, we could have done a little better. If I had gone 11-4, there could have been a shot at Pro Tour. So only a couple wins off, and we'll get into it. I'm gonna just go through each of the rounds and there were 15 of them, so I'm gonna try to not take too long on each one. But let's see, got my notes ready, and this is something, by the way, that I do after each round. So here, actually, let me show a quick example of like the updates that I would give. And you don't have to. We had like a Discord chat, and if you don't feel like annoying your friends, you can always just make it in like your notes on your phone or something like that, and then save it for later. So for example, you got right here like round 15, or I don't know how well you can see that, but just a quick little blurb, quick little couple sentence summary of like the match, right? Something like that. Okay, great. So with that out of the way, round one. So round one, I faced the mirror, and my opponent was very kind, very nice person. So that's pretty much all I can say about it. So I got the 2-0. Second round was against. Okay. So they were a newer player. It was his first RC. He was not very experienced with the deck. Didn't really quite understand the intricacies. It's gonna happen. I qualified for my first thing. What's the easiest deck, right? Oh, Boros Energy. Okay. Anyway, so round 2 was versus Red Green Eldrazi Ramp, and I did also get the 2-0 on this, and my memory's going to be a little bit shaky on some of these. I don't have all of the notes for all the matches. I think it was just like I summarized my day 1, and then I had a little bit more details for day 2. But yeah, nothing really crazy about this game in particular that I remember. I mean, Blood Moon good. Blood Moon and Charmaw good. That's pretty much the name of the game when you're playing against these Eldrazi ramp variants. So then round 3 played against an Eldrazi aggro kind of build. So it was playing the Eldrazi line breakers, and it had Sire of 7 Deaths on the top end. So a little bit different. Still had the Flesh Raker stuff. Still had Thought Knot Seers, all that good stuff. But yeah, the big one is that they're trying to go a little bit more aggressive with the line breakers, basically. So one interesting play that did come up that at first I thought was a punt, then I realized was not. So I didn't realize it till after, and it actually like boosted my mental through the rest of the day, which was helpful. So what I thought. Let's see if I can paint the picture. So my opponent has Sire of 7 Deaths, and I think it would help if I pull up the card. Sire of 7 Deaths. Magic Online, please. Okay, so we all know him. We all love him. We all know him. We all love him. Sire of 7 Deaths. First strike, Vigi, Menace, Trample, Reach, Lifelink, Ward, pay 7. Okay, so let me paint the picture. My opponent has a Sire of 7 Deaths on board, and I have a Flage just sitting out chilling on the table. I have a Flage in hand. I have a Goblin Bombardment. My light total is like 25 or something. So here's the game plan, right? I cast the Flage from my hand, and then I do the Lightning Helix thing on the Sire 7 Deaths. I pay 7 life. What I wanted to do was sacrifice it to Goblin Bombardment to deal another 1, take 7 more life. Then go to combat, attack with my Flage, deal the last 3, take 7 more life. But remember, I'm gaining 6 life in this process. And, if I do this, like my opponent, I think my only other creature my opponent had was like a Sowing Micah Spawn. So it's not, I don't know, I was probably winning the game, right? But then when I play the Flage, I just immediately put it in the graveyard. And then I'm just like, oh no, what am I doing, right? And then, so I do the same, I basically have to do the thing that I described, except I have to sacrifice the Flage that's on the table. And then I have no board presence, right? And I don't think I had a good follow-up. And then my opponent, like, has a couple good top decks. I don't have a good top deck. So I'm feeling pretty bummed about that. I feel like, oh my god, I totally punted game 2. Could have gone to game 3. But then I realized during the break that what I wanted to do would have been illegal because of the legend rule. So when you play your second Flage, you immediately have to put one into the graveyard because of state-based actions with the legend rule. And Therefore, there is no opportunity to sacrifice your new Flage to Goblin Bombardment. So that, I mean, yes, I did get 2-0'd by this player, but that helped me feel a lot better. Like, yeah. Okay, so round 3, we're 1-1. Oh, I'm sorry, round 4, excuse me, we're 2-1. Round 4, I play against another mirror. This person played 3 Solitude in their deck. No Ephemerate. They just replaced 3 Flex slots with Solitude. And I gotta say, I think that is a terrible idea, because the whole point of Boros is that you don't have a lot, a lot of card advantage necessarily. You have card advantage in the sense of your board presence growing, right? You make a bunch of bodies, make a bunch of rectangles, and then you have a lot of synergies with that. That's the deck's strength. Spyro helps. Spyro can, if you're empty-handed, right, draws 2 cards, is pretty good. But generally, if you 2-for-1 yourself just to kill something, and yes, Quantum Riddler, boogeyman of the format, it's pretty hard to deal with. It's tough. I don't think Solitude is the answer. So I don't really understand. And then you can have these awkward draws where you just don't have another white spell, or you just draw your cards in the wrong order. Anyway, as expected, it was fairly not good. I think in the mirror especially, because yeah, I mean, sure, you can hit their Flage, but like, you had to give up so many resources just to do that. And it's just not really worth it, right? So yeah, I don't really quite understand. Oh, I should probably be talking about how I'm sideboarding for these games. My apologies. Let's start with the mirror. Is really simple. Mirror, you bring in Surgicals, you bring in Celestial Purges, you bring in Wrath of the Skies, you take out the Ragavans, and you take out the Blood Moons. Clean, simple. You could people probably do something different on the play versus the draw. I think Ragavan is really bad in the mirror. It just has a very hard time connecting unless you get the perfect, like, you're on the play, you have it in your opening hand, you play it, they play a 1-drop and they don't interact with you, then you have the discharge and you attack. Like, a lot has to go right. And yeah, you can get got. Sure, if someone wants to like cheekily leave it in, I get it. Ragavan's good. Ragavan's a good card, but gets answered real easily. Okay, so yeah, and then we were talking about Eldrazi ramp. So obviously you bring in the Charmaws, the Wear Tears. There's not quite enough targets for that. You also bring in the. Was that it? I think the Eldrazi ramp, I just had a fairly straightforward. Maybe I did bring in the Wear Tears actually, because they have a lot of artifact ramp. Yeah, that's probably what I did. I didn't have like a strict guide or anything. I was kind of just going off of vibes mostly. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but I mean, it was pretty good. And then anyway, for the for the Eldrazi ramp, we took out. We actually left in the discharges. I think I took out like some number of Flage and like a bombardment or something. I don't actually quite remember. It could have been like a discharge or 2. Yeah, it's probably not good on me to remember exactly what I was doing, but in any case. So anyway, that was round 4. Round 5 played against a mono-green Brood Scale deck. So of course with the combo and everything with the sword, the vampire sword thingy, which I can't remember the name of right now, but that's okay. So game 1, I get comboed. I think I make a mistake at some point where I just kind of allow my opponent to get an infinitely sized Brood Scale when I didn't necessarily have to do that, but probably was not winning that game anyway, because I would have had to like sacrifice my whole board just to deal with that. And I think they had a Saga that was ticking up, so I just got like Construct beatdown. Unlikely, but obviously not good to make those errors. Games 2 and 3. So against this deck, I mean, you obviously bring in the Clarion Conquerors, very good against their whole strategy. You could bring in Orange Champ, but no. Bring in the Wear Tears, and You bring in I think I brought in the Wrath of the Skies. Yeah, because it blows up Saga. It blows up quite a lot of their stuff. Like sometimes they have to have a setup turn, and then they can untap and combo you. So if you can interact with that, it's pretty good. And let's see, what did we take out? You obviously you have to leave in the discharges, right? Of course. Probably just took out some number of Spyro, some number of Flage, and a Bombardment or something. Just got to be like Flage is obviously very good, but against like a kind of combo deck like that, you have to be very careful, and you have to make sure your threats and your answers are efficient. So yeah. And yeah, basically as long as you time your removal right and you understand the pinch points of the deck, it's not too bad. It pays to be like an ex-Yogg gamer because I understand a lot how these green combo decks operate and what their pinch points are and when and where to react. Emphasis on the when. You don't need to blink first, right? And that's kind of where you are from the green combo player perspective normally, I guess. So I guess just keep that in mind if you ever pair into like a brute scale player. Hedge77, first time chatter. Hello, welcome. Okay, we're talking about RC Houston. We just won round 5 against brute scale. Okay, round 6 we lost in game 3 games to Izzet Prowess, which was one of the scarier matchups that I was expecting. And I remember my opponent kept a sketchy one-lander on game 1, and I was able, just eventually did Boros things and capitalize. They put up a good fight, though. I mean, deck can still do stuff on one land. Crazy. So can mine. But anyway, and then, of course, for this matchup, what's important, obviously, Galvanic Discharges, right? A little bit on the Thraben Charms. It's a lot to hold up 2 mana, but you got to exile their graveyard. You got to kill their stuff. Did I play in a tournament? Yes. So, quick recap. I was in Regional Championship Houston this past weekend, part of the SCG Con Regional Championships, which you qualify for via RCQs at your local RC qualifiers at your local stores or what have you during the season. Format was modern. I played Boros Energy. This is the list I played. And that's basically it. I'm just going through all of my matchups and how the weekend went. I went 9-6, so I made day 2. First time making day 2 at one of these RCs. So I was pretty happy about that. Let's see. I'll also be uploading this to my YouTube channel at some point in life. So just be sure to subscribe. You could see there's the little bot that's advertising it for me every so often. So go ahead and give me a like and a subscribe or something like that. Okay, great. Anyway, Izzet Prowess. So yeah, one lander, unfortunate, that kind of thing. Game 2. So sideboarding, of course. We're bringing in the Wear Tears. You got to deal with Cutter. Wrath of the Skies is insane against them. And Celestial Purge, because it hits a lot of their threats. It hits the Cutter. It hits the Slick Shot. It hits the... Okay, it hits basically everything. Did I bring in the Orm's Chance? I think so. I don't think it's like completely... Actually, no, I don't think I did. I think I just brought in 6 cards. Yeah, because you don't want to like overboard, right? Obviously, you're leaving in all the Flages. I took out the Blood Moons are obvious. Oh, that was it. Yeah. It was just Blood Moons and Ragavans. Ragavan is so bad versus them. They can deal with it very easily with the card... I just pull it up. Lava Dart. Lava Dart's really, really good against like Ragavan. And it's also really good against Ocelot Pride, but at the same time... look at the card. It just deals 1 damage to anything. Is this a 60 card deck? Yeah. There's a constructed format, 60 card modern constructed. You can see all the 4 ofs and whatnot. So yeah. Anyway, game 2. I don't really remember exactly what happened, but I lost. And then in game 3, we were off to a pretty strong start. I think we were able to deal with their things. And basically, I set myself up so that at any point I rip a Flage off the top, I like instantly win the game. Because there's no way they come back from that. I'm able to play it, escape, deal the damage, gain the life points. No way. And I think I think we were in top deck war for a little bit, and I didn't get there. I was kind of bummed. I really felt like I was close on that one. Just some unfortunate draws. But that's a thing. You're in these big tournaments. You got to have the good. This is what one of my friends was saying. You got to, three things. You got to have good deck selection for yourself and just for the meta. You have to understand the meta, and you have to get lucky. All three of these things have to happen. So just a quick aside for preparing for these things. Obviously, good preparation is important. There were a lot of bad players. So anyway, I didn't say that. Yeah, so after round 6, I believe, what was I, 4-2 at that point. So not bad. Still not bad. Pretty good. Then we lost round 7 to Esper Blink. So many Blink variants. That was technically the overall Blink archetype, overarching for all versions. Blue, White, Esper, and Jeskai were the most represented deck of the tournament. And it's all because of a little card called Quantum Riddler, which is crazy. This card is insane, and it draws you a ton of cards, and it's a really good mid-range tool to help you, well, draw a lot of cards. And it's also kind of like insane with the card Psychic Frog, because the trick is, if ever you're going to draw a card, you can just use Psychic Frog to discard down to 1 card in hand, and then Quantum Riddler will let you draw 2. You do this in the combination with the fact that both Psychic Frog and Quantum Riddler are big, scary, flying threats, and you just like kill the opponent very fast. Very important interactions. I think the Blink variants, they just kind of won out against the Esper Goryo's events because maybe a little bit decks, because they're a little bit more consistent, I imagine. Like a lot of people packing hate for the Goryo's combo. So, yeah. This matchup it's just tough. I think this is the kind of thing that, assuming I run Boros back in Vegas in a few weeks, then I would need to make some adjustments, probably in the sideboard, to better help with the Blink stuff, right? So that's why the second place deck played a couple of Vexing Baubles and things of that nature. One thing, though, is that Blood Moon is, I think, pretty effective against them. It's a little less effective against the Jeskai version because, well, they play red cards. Some red cards, not that many. So, but overall, I did feel the double Blood Moon main deck was pretty good. So, yeah, again, I don't really remember too many of the specifics with that particular match. I think it's just, you have to... You fight with them one-on-one for a while, and they have Wrath of the Skies. They have ways to deal with your board. I believe they also play... I can't remember now, the 4-mana board wipe that is a Supreme Verdict. Yeah, I think they play like 1 or 2 copies of Supreme Verdict. So, yeah, if you go too wide, you can get blown out, and then the Psychic Frog Quantum Riddler combo can just kind of get them back, and then they just overwhelm you with value if you can't like burn them out. So, yeah, definitely unfortunate, but I did take a game off of them. Round 8. This one I do remember. It was a 2-0 against Domain Zoo. So Domain Zoo, obviously pretty aggressive strategy. I don't think they didn't have the ley line either game. So they're not always going to have the ley line, but of course when they do, and they do the Scion thing, it's pretty good. But I think game 1, maybe they just kept like a slower hand or something. They only had a Territorial Kavu, and that was kind of their only threat for a while, and I was just able to like do Guide Pride stuff or something and just do Boros. I just basically did Boros things. I don't know. And then in game 2, my opponent mulled to 5, and they were like, I guess I'll keep. And I'm like, okay. And they play a basic planes, and they pass. And I'm like, okay. Because when I go to my turn, I think I play a Guide or Pride. I don't know. some one drop, right? Something that's like, okay, they're probably going to deal with it, and then I'm going to have to rebuild or deal with their threat, that sort of thing. My opponent draws a card and passes the turn. So I'm just like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. So I believe I just untap and I slam a Voice of Victory, and then they untap, and then they draw a card, and then they concede, and it's like, ooh. Look, all I'm going to say is you are legally allowed to mull to 4. It does suck. It does suck. But sometimes you have to do it. You have to do it. I don't know. Some people just make these decisions sometimes. And look, in a 15 round tournament, you're going to run into these kind of situations a lot where you just have the bad luck. I know there were a couple games in here where it's like, oh, if I rip a land here and I slam a Blood Moon, I win. Oh, look, a land. So it's important to remember that kind of stuff. Okay, so now round 9 versus the deck of the format, Jeskai Blink. So I won in 3 games. Well, I spoiled it, but you already knew that because this is the win and in for day 2, right? Because you have to go 6-3 or better. So anyway, game 1 lasts quite a while. I think it lasted 25 minutes or so, and there's only 50 rounds in the match. So, what did I say? 50 rounds, 50 minutes in the match. So yeah, it's very long, very grindy game, but eventually I am able to just establish a Ajani bombardment and just kind of do the thing, and then eventually my opponent dies. So then in game 2, it's pretty much the opposite, where it's a little bit of a shorter game, and eventually I just get overwhelmed, overvalued, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to concede. We got to go to game 3. We're both playing very fast because obviously we're not incentivized to draw, because if we draw, neither of us makes day 2. So we don't want to get in that awkward situation at the end where, it's like, are you going to concede? Am I going to concede? No, I guess that's, excuse me. I guess we're not making day 2. And that would, no one wants to be in that position, right? Absolutely not. So game 3 comes around, and I believe, I won, right? Yeah, so I'm on the play. I believe I play a Guide of Souls on turn 1. So my opponent goes Galvanic Discharge on the guy. I either play a Ragavan or I play a guy. I don't know. I play a 1-drop. My opponent discharges it, so they have at least 1 energy left over. And then I believe I follow up with a Guide Pride combo. So that way I have 3 creatures and I'm feeling pretty good. I got some life. I got some energy. I'm set up well for the following turn. So, notably, my opponent has a Sacred Foundry out. My opponent goes to their turn 2. And remember that they have an energy, right? And I believe in game 1, I'm able to win off a Blood Moon. So they're being a little careful, I think, with their fetching, right? And their, what lands. Of course, he's also playing very quick. So my opponent plays I believe it was a blue-white fetch, Flooded Strand, and they crack it, and they're going to put a Plains into play. And they start shuffling, and then he says, oh, no, wait, that's not right. He takes it back, gets an island. That's a fine. You're allowed to take it back, I believe, at that point. So it was totally fine. But then as he's shuffling, he says, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to Wrath of Skies for 2 or 1 or whatever. Because, if you have double white mana, and he had an energy, so he's going to spend pay 2 mana, X is 0, spend the energy, kill my board. But my opponent, as I said, changed their mind, put an island into play. So they have a Sacred Foundry and an island. And I just stone cold poker face. Just like that. As is shuffling the deck. And I'm like, okay, if you present this and cut, if you present this to me for a cut, that's it. That's it. Opponent hands me the deck. I cut it. Here you go. And an opponent's like, all right, Wrath of the Skies. And I'm like, that's not a legal game action. There's like, you can't pay for that. And he immediately gets so flustered, like, oh, I was looking at this and I thought it was a treasure. And I don't even know. I think they play Ragavans. So sure, maybe he just thought it was a treasure instead of energy. But like, I think, so then he just like warped a Quantum Riddler and passed. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And basically from there, it was pretty much over. I don't quite remember the whole game. Oh, I do remember the end though. It was actually looking pretty close because obviously from that point I'm able to just go wide. I know my opponent has Wrath of the Skies now, so I guess I don't go too wide, but basically I'm able to sandbag some removal spells and still attack with my things on board and force them to Wrath, and then, that sort of thing. We get to the end, and it's looking close, but my opponent's down to 1. And they're starting to come back. They got the Solitude, they got the Quiddler, they got I think they may have a Flage incoming soon or something. Like, I got to do something. So it's like, I need a burn spell. But then I also know that I think my opponent had some kind of, I think they had Consign to Memory. So he could have just like consigned a Flage, like a trigger of something. So basically, I'm holding an Orum's Chant in hand, which, by the way, I do bring in the Orum's Chants versus the Blink variants because, their whole strategy is that they're going to play a big boy and then they're going to assign the trigger of the downside trigger and sack it or warp it, and then they just have it forever, which is cool. Orum's Chant can stop that. So I do like that. And then you bring in Celestial Purges for Flage, and then you bring in like Surgicals for Flage too, and that's it. Okay. Well, anyway, so basically I'm holding that Orum's Chant. I rip Flage off the top. I have 4 mana. Orum's Chant you, cast Flage, and then they can't interact. So yeah, felt really good. Very tight, intense games. We're playing very fast because, again, that game 1 took like 25 minutes, but I made it to day 2. We did it. We're so back. So yeah, first time making day 2, very, very exciting. So I got a good night's rest. And funny thing too about that day is I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to double queue with the arena qualifier weekend because I qualified for it. And it was the Omen Paths sealed. Because I have a pretty good, as much as I dislike the set, I unfortunately do have a pretty good grasp of the format. So if you know anything about that format, it's green, white, or bust. Pretty much. I opened my pool Saturday morning, and it was probably the worst sealed pool I've ever opened in my entire life. Like, just unironically, objectively, and then the people who were there with me, they're extremely good limited players too, and we tried to like, how can we salvage this thing, man? Oh, it was bad. I'm not going to get into it. It was very bad. It doesn't matter. So it's like, I think I was able to scrounge 1 win, and it's like, I don't even know how I did that, to be honest. So it's kind of nice. It gave me that focus that I needed to really, really hone in and qual for day 2. So that was pretty cool. There are 6 rounds on day 2. Basically, if I had gone, I think either 5-1 or 6-0, shot for Pro Tour, right? So don't count me out just because I got in squeaking by at X3, right? I did actually take some better notes for this, but it's on my phone, so let me just I gotta go back a bit. Okay. So round 10, played against Amulet Titan. This is the first time I've played Amulet Titan all weekend. So I lost. I went 1-2. She had been playing the deck for 2 weeks. Piloted very well. I'm not saying that as like it's impressive. I mean, I've played decks on limited reps before. It happens. Titan's a good deck. Titan's a good choice. It's gonna have a target on its back though. But anyway, the sideboarding for Titan, I'm still trying to figure out, honestly, because there's a lot of cards that are decent to good, like Charmaw, Wear Tear, Surgical ? Because you can take away key lands, maybe, or take away Titan. I don't know. or you could take away their one of fun of analyst, which actually this player was playing 3 analysts, which was interesting. This guy's a little slow, but yeah. Anyway, so I think game 1 I had a pretty strong start with like a Ragavan and then like an Ajani, or I'm just kind of curving out, beating down, and I get the city's blessing and all of that good stuff, and I'm just short. I'm just a little short of killing. I think I got her down to like 3 or 4. And if I had a bombardment or maybe an extra flage trigger, something like that, I probably would have gotten there. But unfortunately, and I was also on the draw. So that helped my opponent a lot. Winning the die roll is pretty important for game 1. So then I got comboed, and that's okay. In game 2, I was able to land an early Blood Moon and then just like completely take over the game. Game 3, the game lasted a long time, and it was very close. And it basically ended with me unable to stick a flage or something of that nature, or get a solid attack in, because she like was able to. Oh, I remember. We were in like a big top deck war after just Drago for a couple turns because we were both like hellbent and just trying to drip gas off the top. Basically, I needed to find Flage, and she needed to find a Titan. And I think at this point I had surgicaled away the analysts, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, she finds the Titan, and then she's able to bounce an Otawara to hand, and I know she also has a Boseiju, so I just have like, it's basically over from that point. But I think the problem with this one, like, my opponent kept a very defensive, make some constructs, protect the board wipe hand. They play Fire Spout. But the hand I kept, it was a sketch 1 lander. I think it had 2 or 3 Ragavan and a Static Prison and like a Voice of Victory and maybe a Bombardment or something. And I don't think I should have kept. It might have had a Wear Tear. I'm not sure about that. But overall, I definitely regretted the keep. I don't think it is justifiable, even though the game was close and it did go long. I think there are just some fairly normal hands I could have had that probably would have won that game. So I do consider that a mistake, right? I don't think I should have kept that hand, basically. Okay, so unfortunate, felt a little bummed, but got more Magic to play. Round 11, I played against one of I think there were only 6 Belcher decks that made day 2, which is kind of crazy for a deck that won the Pro Tour, right? But I think the overall win weight of the deck was not even that good. And then it's so easy to hate out, because at the end of the day, it's kind of just like a medium combo deck with like a really efficient win condition, if you think of it that way. So it was a mono blue, but it also had a couple white splashes for like the white MDFC that deals 3, Razor Grass, something or other. And it had a, what else? Like a portable hole, stuff like that. So let's see. The problem, well, it was different. So most Belcher lists have the 2-mana dig creatures, the Thundertrap Trainer, and the Philology Archaeologist. This deck had 0. The only creatures it played were the 4 MDFC Lab Specimen or whatever the heck, and of course 4 Tameshi. That was it. That was the whole creature suite. So I was able to actually adjust my sideboarding. I took out the Galvanic Discharges, which normally I would leave in for Belcher because you have to kill their creatures to take them off of Flare of Denial. This person wasn't even playing Flare of Denial, which makes sense because they don't have the creatures. So I think they just like had more control elements. I don't really remember. So I think in game 1 I get comboed because I'm just not able to go fast enough. He's able to answer my stuff. And then in game 2, I don't actually remember game 2. I don't know. I just did Boros things, right? That's my cop-out answer. In game 3, I my opponent, I think he kept a very strong hand. The only problem was it did not have 3 lands. If my opponent my opponent got stuck on 2 lands for a little too long, and they also didn't suspend a Lotus Bloom. So, yeah, if my opponent ever found land 3, they would be able to Whir of Invention for the Lotus Bloom and just do the combo, and I don't think I win. But yeah, thankfully opponent just didn't have it. Didn't have it. Oh, I remember game 2. I think I was able to just play around what I could, but it's like, okay, here we go. If you untap, and they're going to get the Lotus Bloom in play, and there's nothing I could have done about it. If you do that, you have untapped land, and they had enough light to bolt themselves, and then you slam Charbelcher and activate it, that's game. It's like, okay, show it to me. And he didn't have it, because they don't always have it. Sometimes they have to rely on Tameshi loops. Sometimes they just have to rip the Charbelcher naturally, or get the Whir, or something like that. Quick hydration break. Refreshing. Okay. But yeah, sometimes you just got to make them have it. You got to play around what you can, and no reason to play around what you can't. General advice. Okay, that's round 11. Round 12, I 2-0'd Abzan Samwise Birthing Ritual combo. So this one, it definitely paid off to be a Yawgmoth gamer, because I know the... Oh, sorry about that. There was a... Jeez, scared me. What was that? Like an emergency alert? Silver alert. Missing endangered adult. Ugh. Hope they find it. Okay. Or hope they find that person. Sorry, I got distracted. Okay. So anyway, yes. Samwise Birthing Ritual. So yeah, definitely pays off to be a Yawgmoth gamer, because I understand how these combos operate. I mean, I never played Samwise, but I'm like pretty familiar, right? You got the cat, you got the sack outlet, you got the Samwise. That's pretty much it. So in game 1, I think I was just able to overwhelm, time the removal spells right. I think I was able to answer the Birthing Ritual with the... This is one where Thraben Charm kind of shines, because it blows up enchantments, which is kind of... It's nice. So yeah, Thraben Charm did a lot of work, for sure. Game 2, we had... Oh, in game 2, he brought a ton of hate in. I'm going to pull up these ones. So he brought in 2 cards, which were very effective against me. So the first one is Crystal Barricade, which, if you don't remember, is the 2-mana 0/4 defender from Foundations. You have Hexproof, and prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. So your Galvanic Discharges, your Flages, they can only hit this thing. You have to kill this thing first. Your Goblin Bombardments, right? That kind of thing. Or your Rajanis when you have a red permanent. Yeah, so yeah, and it's an 0/4 wall. It's huge, so it's a little hard to deal with. The other card in great combination with that is Sun Cleanser, which used to be a lot more played, I think. Yeah, Sun Cleanser, 2-mana 1/4. When this creature enters, choose one. Ignore the first part. The second part is what matters. Target opponent loses all counters. This includes energy. That player can't get counters for as long as this creature remains on the battlefield. So this completely shuts off Guide of Souls and Galvanic Discharge and Wrath of the Skies, which, I would 100% bring in as well, right? So yeah, my opponent had both of these creatures out at one point. Very difficult to deal with, but eventually I think I was able to do like a Flage plus Bombardment on the Crystal Barricade, and then able to answer the just the other creatures and whatnot. And I got him down like a super low life total, and I had a good board. My opponent, on their turn, they have the Birthing Ritual. They've already resolved the Birthing Ritual. I think they got like a Gilded Goose. I don't know. They have a sack outlet. They have a cat, the Drain Cat in the graveyard, No food on the table. They cord, still on end step. They cord for 2. My opponent has nothing in hand. Opponent has nothing in hand. That's their board. There's some lands. And I'm trying to think here. I'm like, okay, what could they get besides Samwise? Because if they get Samwise, they don't have combo. They don't have a way to generate food. I have a discharge in hand and a mana up. I was considering destroying the sack outlet. It was Serum. No, not Serum Visions. Viscera Seer. Sorry, Viscera Seer is the card I'm thinking of. I could have discharged the Viscera Seer. It turns out that actually also would have been fine at that point because if he gets Samwise, then he just can't do anything because he can't make a food, right? Or even if he can make a food, the cat comes back, but like then you can't sacrifice it, so you can't do the loop. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking at his graveyard. It's like, okay, well, you've already used your Sun Cleanser and your Crystal Barricade, so you're not getting that. I know you only have one ofs. What could it be, right? What could it be besides Samwise? And Samwise is not good enough here. So I was considering doing the discharge, but I just was like, okay, cord for 2. He gets Samwise. I consider doing the discharge on my end step. What's the harm, right? Go to my discharge the thing, go to my turn, untap. I have lethal no matter what because I think I have another Flage in hand. I have a Flage on board. I have an Ajani and a Bombardment. He's at like 8 or 9, so it's just like it's like Ajani, make a guy, ping you, and then Flage from hand, ping you, attack with the Flage, ping you, and then you're dead, right? But then I'm like, whoa, wait a second. This is on the end step, right, of the previous opponent's turn. My opponent has a fetch up. And I'm thinking, wait a second. I'm trying to remember the deck list, right? Because it's open deck list, but it's hard to remember every single card when you're playing. So that's a skill. Does my opponent have a Dryad Arbor in deck? And of course, we all know and love the Dryad Arbor here on this channel. Except when we don't. Dryad Arbor, it's a creature, it's a forest, you can fetch it. It's huge. So it turns out that he did have a Dryad Arbor in deck. If I had blinked first and used my discharge on like whatever, Samwise, or it doesn't matter, at that point, all my opponent just fetches for a Dryad Arbor, creates a food, does the loop, and kills me. So I absolutely would have thrown the game if I did not just, realize I don't need to do anything. I'm in a winning position. My opponent needs to blink first, and then I can react. I'm the control player now. Look at me. I'm the captain. So, yeah, don't throw games. Don't throw games. So, yeah, that was round 12, I believe. So at this point, I was 9-4. So I was 11-4. I was feeling pretty good. But then we played against, in round 13, I went 1-2 versus Jeskai Blink against another SoCal resident and teammate of Vinny, who ended up taking down the whole thing. The guy was Ivan Espinoza. Turns out I've never actually met him before, which is kind of weird because I think we've been in maybe some of the same tournaments, but just by happenstance, some of you don't pair into people, and you're in different like friend groups, or I don't know what. Anyway, nice guy, very nice guy. So we had a pretty good, we had a pretty good match. In game 3, though, it was very. I think in game 1 he gets stuck on 2 lands, and I'm able to Blood Moon lock. Game 2 he just does the Jeskai Blink thing. I'm sure there's obviously more to that, but it's not important. The important one is game 3. In game 3, I have a Flage in the graveyard, and I am about to escape it on the following turn. However, because I did an earlier surgical, because I had like a Spyro, and it's like, if I don't use this now, I won't have it for later because I have to discard. But anyway, so I spiral. I know my opponent has Solitude and Ephemerate in hand. And they also had like a Wrath of Sky. So I'm able to like deploy a couple things, make them use the Wrath. And then eventually the Solitude comes down like naturally, right? 5 mana, actual, factual Solitude. So my opponent has this Solitude out. And I have the Flage in the graveyard. They have the Ephemerate in hand. So I can't just escape Flage because they're just going to exile it. And I think that's my only Flage I'm pretty sure that was my only Flage in the graveyard at the time. So it's like, this is my key to victory. So I needed to rip either Galvanic Discharge to answer if I can remove the Solitude with basically with the Discharge, right? If I'm able, or somehow force them in a position where he has to block and trade. But more than likely, it just should be a Discharge. So if I can rip a Discharge off the top, or I rip an Orim's Chant off the top, I basically just win the game on the spot. Because then, I think at that point at some point I drew an Arena of Glory. So we could have just gone Orim's Chant you, resolves, boom, escape, haste out Flage, kill the Solitude, attack, kill something else, deal 6, and then it seems and I gain like 6 life in the process. Very, very hard for them to come back from that. Very difficult. Sometimes you draw hot, sometimes you draw cold. I gave myself the best opportunity. I think we overall played a pretty good game. We had some talks afterward, and I think he was a little surprised at the Orim's Chant. Not so much that I played it against him, because obviously he was very good. He did a cool play on 4 lands. He hasted out Flage with Arena of Glory from hand, and he was gonna consign the trigger, obviously. So I'm just like, okay, on the stack I Orim's Chant. So it basically turned into like a 3-mana Lightning Helix that put a stun counter on a land, that was pretty cool. But then, of course, I knew that he had the consign, so that made things a little awkward. Whatever. So anyway, he was saying he was a little surprised I was playing that. And at first I meant wait, of course I would bring this in against you. It seems pretty good, right? Because you cast the first thing, and you want to Ephemerate, or you want to consign, and then it's like, no. I don't think that's not what he meant. I think he meant, it doesn't seem it's not a very proactive card. And I remember the guy that got second place, apparently he was also their teammate. I actually didn't know that until I saw some recap video. I didn't recognize that guy. But anyway, so you'll notice in this list there's no Orim's Chant. There's also no Clarion Conqueror too, but maybe that's because the creature combo decks is not as much of a concern. You have a lot of tools just to deal with them naturally, I guess. Question mark. Also, maybe the meta share is down, something like that. But yeah. So that's basically the thing on Orim's Chant. So so at that point I was what? I was 10-4, 10-5, I think. That was round 13, so 10-4. Yeah. 9-5. Yeah, 9-5. Okay. Round 14, I played against another Energy Mirror. So this was another player that played Ephemerates in the main deck. But this time they also put in Sorry, did I say Ephemerate? They put Solitudes in the main deck. This person also had Ephemerates. But they're cutting their key cards. They went down a Flage. They didn't have a Static Prison. Static Prison's, it's okay. But, I don't know, these critical slots. And then you're playing it for the situational combo that doesn't have great synergy with the rest of your deck. Okay, you can Ephemerate an Ajani and get another 2-1? I guess. The Blink decks are ephemerating their Solitudes and killing something. They're ephemerating their Subtleties and cheating 3/3s into play. They're ephemerating their Quantum Riddlers and drawing 3 cards or something ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. I was in total disagreement, and the thing is, I'm not sure the energy players that I play against were exactly the strongest too. So I don't know. It makes you think, right? So anyway, and then I believe at that point I was 9-5. So at this point, if I won, I think I get minimum cash, and then I also get a requal for the next season's RC, which I already actually have a double qual for through. I qualified with the VV standard and then also a Spider-Man limited RCQ. Oh my god, don't tell me about it. Yeah. So anyway, I was gonna see if I could get it to, if I got it, get it to count for Vegas, because I'm actually not qualified for Vegas. I'm gonna have to go and just like spike an LCQ, which I think I can do it. I'd rather not. But they told me like, no, it doesn't work like that. I'm okay. Well, I tried. So anyway, I played against another Titan player. There's another guy that played the deck for 2 weeks, and I still lost. What does that tell you? So yeah, no, Titan's a very good deck. And again, not a bad player. Obviously a very good player, right? Piloted deck very well. Made it to day 2. Impressive. Good stuff. So I think I remember games 1 and 2 were not particularly interesting. Game 1 was extremely close because I had a bombardment in hand, but I knew my opponent had a Boseiju, and I didn't have enough creatures on board to like have lethal. So yeah, really unfortunate. And if I had 4 mana, if I had drawn a second bombardment for turn, 100% win that game. But alas. All right. So game 2, I won on a mull 5. That's the thing. The deck mulligans well, kind of. Like, they're not too much card advantage, but man, you get the right hate. You went like Guide Pride and then a Blood Moon is just like, okay. And the opponent didn't have an answer for it. So GG's. Game 3, I remember keeping, I wish I knew the hand exactly. I think it was Fetch Land, Surveil Land, Blood Moon. Let's see if I remember. Fetch Land, Surveil Land, Blood Moon, Ragavan, a Voice of Victory, perhaps, Obsidian Charmaw, and I think it was like a Guide of Soul, like a 1-drop, a Guide of Souls or an Ocelot Pride or something. So it was a pretty decent hand on the draw though. And I got the turn 1 Ragavan, but I think opponent had like a nuts turn 2 kill against me. And I don't know, that hand, we talked about it afterward. I believe it was a correct keep, but it just goes to show that deck's really hard to beat, right? It's hard to fight all angles. You just kind of have to, because sometimes they won't keep the nuts hands. Sometimes they'll keep the interaction heavy hands with the dismembers or the fire spouts or something of that nature. So yeah. All right. Well, and then so we ended the run 9-6. First time making day 2 of an RC. I was very overall. I wish I of course could have done a little better. Have another shot at the Pro Tour, right? But I'm happy with my performance. I was happy with my deck selection. I was on Yogg for way too long. It's just not the deck for me. And I'm comfortable with Boros. I think I piloted it pretty decently. Still, of course, have lots to learn, as always, just as a Magic player and a person. And I think I'm going to run this archetype back for Vegas. Either that or try out this Jeskai Blink variant. But I don't know. I'm not too sure on that. It's possible. I have the Quantum Riddlers. But certainly that deck is going to have a big target on its back, right? So, yeah, that's my breakdown.